couple of weeks ago on the channel I picked up a Tantive Hallway for the second time. I picked up one on March the 1st, but I'd picked up a second one the other week with a very clear plan in mind to sell the 5s, sell the Vader, sell the Antilles and create a rather cheap full extended hallway scene. I also wanted to add these 3 to the back, and we'll get onto that at the very end. What I realised quite early on in this build is the fact that I was building it like for like. So I've encountered a problem, which is the fact that I've replicated the first step. So I'm going to need to go back and somehow invert it so that that on the left hand side is on the right hand side. And I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to just try and work it out, I think. What I realised as well is online there was no actual instructions for the type of build that I was after. I think there was for Luke versus the Dark Troopers, but it was a slightly different build, of course, to this. Now, it's hard to tell, but I think I've got it right. Time will literally only tell. We'll find out when we open the next couple of bags. And the good thing about the way that I've done it is there might be a misplaced piece towards the back here. But the place where the doorway is going to be and the sort of the wall pieces are all kind of the same, in the same layout. So I can pretty much follow the instructions for the next bag, and hopefully that'll be a less stressful experience than what I've just done. Now, it is hard to tell early on, but it does look as though I have done it correctly. But I guess time will tell. And time did tell, and it wasn't as simple as just following the instructions. Some of the panelling, of course, was easily done, and I did start to lay out some of the pieces that would be just added on anyway to the build, and nothing that needed any sort of technical elements changed. And of course I made sure that the doorway was built as well. Not that I would be using the fiery bit of it, but I thought it was important to get all the bits that I knew how to build done really early on. And eventually I did stumble my way to the finish line, which I didn't quite capture on time lapse. And as you can see, what it needed now was some Technic pins, and I only had 4 that I could find nearby, so I thought I'd drop 4 in and try and evenly space them. And as you can see, it was sufficient to get the whole build to connect and click together. And I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with this. I know it's not an incredibly technical build, but once you're in amongst the thick of it and you're not quite sure how to invert certain areas such as the corners, such as the doors and some of the panelling underneath, it can be slightly more challenging than, of course, following just the manual instructions. So it is looking great, and let's add some minifigures and create a scene. And the 4 stormtroopers now take up most of the first half of the hallway. I've also put a rebel trooper down on the deck, as it feels appropriate that one of them would have been shot by now. And Vader is still force choking Antilles, who's still being held up on that crystal stud. What it does bring me round to is my original plan, however, which is to put these 3 in the back, visible in the back door / window area that you can see through. And it does require me to go into my extra parts and dig out some dark bluish grey plate, as well as some grey and black plate and tiles. And I did also sort of tease the idea of potentially using the translucent bricks there to create some sort of engine room style build, but I will show you what I've settled on. As you can see through there, it's not particularly well lit because of the fact that it's covered from the other side. It also does hang out the back, but it only hangs out ever so slightly. There is only a couple of studs extra. The Technic pin that is on the other side for the door that is on fire already comes out 4 or 5 studs, so you've only really added 1 or 2 studs between the build and probably what will be the back of the bookshelf it will be on. And that is Leia, R2D2 and C3PO, and that's sort of the best that I could do with what I had at the moment. I was tempted to build upwards and connect it to the frame of the door, and maybe that's something that I will look to do in the future. I already really loved this as a set, and I really liked the sort of scene that was being encapsulated, and I'm really now pleased with the way it looks, and selling off those excess figures meant that this set only cost a couple of pounds to build, and considering you're getting 4 extra troopers in there, I think it is a really nice set, and I love what I have managed to add to it with that layer, C3PO and R2D2.